Talagang literal mga kababayan na etong si Bato de la Rosa at etong si Nabongo ay mukhang nadiin pa ata. Ano po dito po sa nangyaring pagpapakita ng mga ebidensya ng defense ng mga biktima mga kababayan ng prosecution. Ano po laban po dito kay Duterte at sa kanyang mga kasabwat mga kababayan. Ano po so ito pakinggan po natin.
PHL OTP 000-15506 R01. But this witness with direct knowledge stated, quote, "He's like planting of evidence. It is
Yan.
necessary," and the he is Duterte. He called it necessary evil. So they said that there are times in police work that you have to do the necessary evil for the sake of the common good, end quote. And I think you'll see, Your Honors, that that's a theme that runs through Mr. Duterte's career. He's willing to do whatever he considers the necessary evil, either for the common good or for his political advancement, or both. And Mr. Duterte confirmed years later, in 2024, when being questioned under oath during a hearing in the Philippines House of Representatives, that planting evidence was his strategy as mayor. Now, at first he denied it.
Hindi, at saka mga kababayan, di ba, dati pa naman sinasabi ni Digong yan na nagpaplanta talaga siya ng ebidensya. Na nagpapabricate sila ng mga ebidensya para po idiin yung mga kalaban nila sa politika mga kababayan. Katulad ng ginawa po nila kay former Senator Laila de Lima. At ngayon kung matatandaan nyo mga kababayan, di ba, nagsalita noon si Secretary Boying Remulla na talagang magugulat ka na lang nung panahon ni dating Pangulong Duterte kasi nga sasabihin ang dahilan kung bakit nawala itong tao na ito dahil nagkasakit, may sakit sa puso or what mga kababayan. Pero mapapansin mo na may tama ng bala sa ulo. Di po ba mga kababayan? So kung mapapansin nyo nung panahon po ni Duterte kaya takot lumapit ang mga tao, takot magpaimbestiga, takot lumapit sa pulis kasi ang kalaban po talaga nila ng mga panahon na yon, yung ating mga kapulisan at yung gobyerno ni Duterte.
In this hearing, but then he admitted to planting evidence in this exchange. If we can go to the next slide.
Hindi nitong
This is tab 46.
prosecutor na to.
Chairperson, quote, so you really did plant evidence. Mr. Duterte's answer, well, that was part of the strategy as a mayor and as a leader of the law enforcement agency in the city.
Di ba?
His privilege, his legal background, makes this betrayal of the law and embrace of murder even more inexcusable. He knew, as a lawyer, as a former prosecutor, that his so-called crackdown on crime was a criminal attack on civilians of the Philippines. And overwhelmingly, the evidence shows, on poor civilians. The poorest of the poor were his victims. He knew his conduct, at its core, was criminal. And not only did Mr. Duterte clearly intend his criminality, he openly bragged about it. Right up until his arrest, and we'll get to that later, but right up until his arrest, he bragged about it. He thrives on a tough guy persona or image that he's tried to create for himself. My friend talked about him riding motorcycles. Well, one example I'll show you is from 2000.
Isa pa yon mga kababayan, kung matatandaan nyo, nung mayor siya ng Davao City, di ba, sumasakay siya ng Harley Davidson, naglilibot sa city mga kababayan at nag-aabang na magkaroon po ng kaguluhan. And then after nun mga kababayan, kapag nakakita siya ng kaguluhan, talagang pipilitin niyang manlaban yung makikita niya na tao na gumagawa ng gulo mga kababayan or kasama dun sa kaguluhan na makikita po niya para matuluyan niya. Di ba yan? Mismo binanggit po yan ni Duterte sa hearing mga kababayan sa Kamara at saka po sa Senado. Anyway, tuloy pa natin.
2007 now, if we could play that, James. And I should say this is tab 18.
Grabe to.
Elite, never losing an election.
So, riding a Harley Davidson, shooting a semi-automatic pistol, this is the image he's trying to create from the beginning. He likes to pose with weapons. If we can go to the next one, James. This is tab 80.
Yan.
And here in
Sino yung kasama dito mga kababayan? Ni Duterte. Sino yung kasama dito ni Digunggong? O di si Senator Bato de la Rosa, ayan o, Medyo bata-bata po si Bato dito.
This photo, which was published in a newspaper,
Naku
you
po.
can see Mr. Duterte holding an assault rifle. And I'll just note that we also see in this photo, to the immediate left of the photo, Ronald Bato de la Rosa.
Nako!
Bato is the nickname. And to Mr. Duterte's immediate right, Isidro La Peña. And we'll hear more about them later. Even days before he was arrested, 3 days before he was transferred to The Hague, this tough guy persona was on display again during a speech in Hong Kong.
Ah,
He
naku
brushed
po.
off the possibility of an ICC arrest warrant, and he referred to the ICC, quote, as motherfuckers who have been after him for a long time, end quote. This is him on March 9th, 2025, if you could play that, James. This is tab 136.
Sa totoo lang,
Eto mga kababayan, pakinggan nyo sinabi niya sa Hong Kong yan. At yung mga didisit na walang utak, pinagtawanan lang, tawa lang ng tawa, and then ginawa lang nilang katatawanan yung International Criminal Court. Ngayon mga kababayan, lahat ng sinabi niya, eto ginagamit na ebidensya laban sa kanya.
baka ang balita ko, may warrant daw ako pag...
Yan na.
Hindi, totoo. Yung sa ICC or something. Matagal na akong hinahabol ng mga
Naku po. Yan na. Diba?
That's him 3 days before coming to The Hague. Of course, after arriving in the Hague, his lawyers very soon began arguing that Mr. Duterte was not fit enough for these proceedings. Wasn't physically or mentally fit enough to be put on trial or for his charges to be confirmed. But fortunately, a panel of 3 medical experts that Your Honors appointed found unanimously that he is.
Okay.
The point is that despite what the defense may say, here or to the press, Mr. Duterte is perfectly fine.
Tama.
He's able to attend the proceedings today.
Kasi alam nyo mga kababayan, yung ginagawa lang naman, sa bagay gawain naman talaga ng kampo ni Digunggong yan na magdahilan mga kababayan para mapalabas na kritikal yung kalagayan ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte para hindi niya, para makuha, umaklaim nila yung interim release or yung pansamantalang kalayaan ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Pero mga kababayan, kung titingnan nyo pong mabuti maliwanag yung sinabi dito ng prosecutor ng prosecution na kung saan yung 3 doktor na inappoint mga kababayan pare-parehas yung sinasabi na okay lang yung kalagayan ni dating Pangulong Duterte. Kaya yung sinasabi ni Kaufman na nag-collapse, walang katotohanan yan, gawa-gawa niya lang yan.
There is nothing stopping him except that he doesn't want to be here. He chose not to face the court, not to face the victims. There is no reason for him not to be here other than his request and choice. I'll move on now briefly to his time as mayor in Davao, Your Honors. If we can quickly bring up the map, James.
Siguro mga kababayan, pag ito yung abogado nyo sa kaso nyo, baka lagi kayong panalo sa mga kaso ninyo kasi yung titig pa lang mga kababayan, talagang makikita nyo kung gaano ka-professional, kung gaano kagaling na prosecutor to.
We see Davao in the south.
Ano titig pa lang, makikita nyo na.
I don't think there's any dispute where Davao is. He was first elected mayor of Davao City in 1988 and served as mayor for more than 20 years.
Ito na.
88, 2016. And as the deputy prosecutor has noted, jurisdiction for this case is 1st November 2011 to 16 March 2019. We're limited to that jurisdiction. So that is the period we will concentrate on today, although, of course, before and after may be relevant. As mayor of Davao, Mr. Duterte promised a crackdown on crime. To quote, crackdown, end quote, on crime and drugs, Mr. Duterte created liquidation squads, death squads, made up both of Davao City police officers as well as non-police officers who were essentially hired hitmen, hired killers. And this system of his became known as the Davao model. The Davao model was murder, not being tough on crime legally, as my friend said. And you have to think, it's a little strange cracking down on crime by committing the crime of murder.
Ay, Ma'am Rowena Miranda, mega love shoutout ha.
Of course, Mr. Duterte did not commit these crimes alone.
Ah,
We did
ibig sabihin, meron siya mga kasama. Ano po, mga kasabwat, mga kababayan. At dito napapasok yung dalawa nating magaling na senador. Ano po, yung dalawa nating magaling na senador pagdating sa kalokohan. Si Bato at saka si Bongo.
discuss the co-perpetrators,
Ito na.
including during the mayoral period, in our pre-confirmation brief, Your Honors. And you'll find that at paragraphs 8 to 23.
Naku po.
I'll talk about just a few of them now, just to introduce them. First, if we go to the slide, thank you. Ronald Bato de la Rosa,
Ouch!
Chief of the Davao City Police Office, or DCPO, from 2012 to 2013. Next.
Wait lang Naandya dyan ang pangalan ni Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa. Alam nyo mga kababayan, ako naniniwala ako sa sinabi ni former Chief Justice Serrano na si Bato de la Rosa ang pwedeng maging susi para makalaya si Duterte. Ano ang gagawin ni Bato de la Rosa? Pag lumabas yung arrest warrant laban sa kanya, much better to surrender. Yun ang pinakamabuti at pinakadapat gawin ni Senator Bato. And after niya mag-surrender mga kababayan, pagdating niya sa dahig, aminin niya lahat na siya ang nagplano at siya ang nag-implement. At walang kinalaman etong si Digong. Kasi mga kababayan, sa totoo lang, siya yung pinakamadidiin talaga dito. Kasi unang-una, bukod siya po yung Chief Davao City Police Office, talagang masasabi po natin na siya rin yung naging PNP chief nung panahon ni dating Pangulong Duterte kung saan kasagsagan yung mga itinutumba mga kababayan at nadadamay yung mga kababayan Pilipino po natin na inosente. Kaya nga sa totoo lang, Senator Bato, kung nanunood ka man, ngayon, dapat mangatal na yung betlog mo. Dapat mangatal na yung betlog mo kasi pag na-arrest at nahuli ka, malaki ang posibilidad na baka nga kumbinsihin ka ng pamilya ni Digong na akuin mo lahat. Tama yung sinasabi ni former Chief Justice Serrano mga kababayan na si Bato lang talaga ang susi. Kasi siya yung pinaka-nadidiin dito.
Vicente Danao, another police chief in Davao during the period. Next. Christopher Bongo,
Naku
who
po,
was Mr. Duterte's aide, special assistant, and important advisor
Senator Bongo, ano yung sinasabi mo na hindi ka kasabwat at hindi mo alam yung mga pinaggagawa ni Duterte? Maliwanag na naandi dito yung pangalan mo. Na kahit pa ilang beses mong itanggi yung pakikipagsabwatan mo kay Digong, hindi mo na maitatanggi yan. Kasi unang-una, maliwanag na ikaw yung nagsalita sa interview kung magkano yung patong sa ulo nung mga ninja cops. Diba, biruin nyo, pagka naitumba, 2 million pesos mga kababayan, ganun katindi. Kapag ka nahuli buhay, nasa sa 1 milyon o kalahating milyon yung bayad. Pero kapag ka naitumba mga kababayan, o kapag ka na-arrestot ng laban, talagang 2 milyon pala yun. Pagka naitumba, 1 milyon mga kababayan yung bayad. Ganun po katindi. Pagka buhay, kalahating milyon. Si Bongo po ang nagsabi niyan. So hindi niya pwedeng itanggay mga kababayan yung kanyang pananagutan at ugnayan sa krimen na ginawa nila nung sila ang nasa kapangyarihan. Anyway, tuloy pa natin.
from 1998 to 2016 for the Davao period and then continued later in the presidency. Mr. Dante Guiran, Regional Director of the National Bureau of Investigation. And finally, Italiano Aguirre,
Nako,
who is a
si
lawyer
Aguirre.
for Mr. Duterte and for some of the DDS members during the mayoral period. And Ms. Croft will discuss these co-perpetrators and their roles in more depth in her presentation, which will be tomorrow.
Grabe no?
Let me talk now a little bit about the structure of the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. And as we say in our brief, it's a pyramidal structure. If we go, James, to the next one.
Dito pa lang tandaan nyo mga kababayan, dito pa lang sa mga prosecutor, dito pa lang sa prosecution mga kababayan na si Julian Nichols, yung mga inilahad niya, sa inilahad niyang yan nag-iiyakan na yung mga DDS partida. Hindi pa pinapakita dyan at pinagsasalita yung mga witnesses katulad nitong sina Matubato at Las Cañas mga kababayan na miyembro ng Davao Death Squad. or itong DDS mga kababayan. Hindi pa pinapakita yan. Pero nag-iiyakan na yung mga DDZ, paano pa kaya? Kapag ka ipinakita at pinagsalita, yung dalawang miyembro na yon mga kababayan, di lalo na. Di po ba? Kasi kung dito pa nga lang, confirmation of charges pa lang to, pero nag-iiyakan na yung mga taga-suporta ni Digong, paano kapag ka-trial na? Di lalo na, baka lumabas yung mga uhog nyo. Di po ba? Anyway, tuloy pa natin.
Again, this colloquially became known as the Davao Death Squad, and it had a hierarchical, pyramid-like structure.
Yan na.
At the very top, as mayor, Rodrigo Duterte. And as mayor, he had, of course, de jure control over the Davao police. And the evidence shows, Para 34, we talk about this in our brief, he also had de facto control. Under him were co-perpetrators, some of whom I have mentioned.
Sina Bato, sina Bongo, Aguirre, etong sina Danao, at yung iba pa, kasama dyan sina Adbayalde, mga kababayan.
The co-perpetrators had different roles, but one of them was to relay orders and instructions down from Mr. Duterte to the DDS handlers, and also to relay reports back up to Mr. Duterte. So a typical chain of command, the instructions go down, the reports go up. And the handlers were responsible for the different death squads or DDS members. And at the very bottom, the lowest rung, the DDS members who actually perpetrated the killings, who carried out physically the murders. And they were made up of both police officers, who were generally lower level police officers, as well as non-police persons who were hired. These members at the bottom were often recruited because they had a debt or owed something to Mr. Duterte
Tama.
or the police, and they could therefore be controlled. And those members at the very bottom were at risk themselves, because if they did not follow orders, or if they tried to leave the DDS, they could be tortured or killed or both. And there was evidence of that
Tama.
in this case. I'll talk now, just for a few moments, about the founding of the DDS, Duterte's death squad, the genesis of the death squads. One witness described his initiation into the DDS. He described it happening in 1988 at a dinner meeting in a hotel in Davao City. And this was a huge deal for this witness. I mean, it was almost unimaginable being invited to a dinner in a hotel in the center of Davao where he was going to be the mayor. Mr. Duterte was present, and he openly told the new members of the death squad he was forming that their job was to kill criminals. If we can go to the next slide, James. This is tab 50, Your Honors. This is what the witness recalls of the meeting. Quote, he, Duterte, told us that your job here in the city would be to kill the drug pushers, the snatchers, and the holduppers. That's what our job is going to be. And
Grabe, no?
in private, with his paid killers, Mr. Duterte didn't say anything about self-defense. He then provided these death squad members with guns and ammunition, and again, in a festive way, a basket was passed around filled with handguns, and the new members could pull one out, like getting a prize. They would each have a weapon. For their
Tama.
It was a celebratory event for Mr. Duterte. The witness explained Mr. Duterte was happy at this dinner meeting. He was laughing, and he even sprayed a bottle of champagne to celebrate. That's a Para 5 for our PCB. One witness recalls, we can go to the next slide, James, thank you, recalled of this event, quote, he, Duterte again, said it was like a baptismal, like a launching. He was very happy at that moment, end quote. That's tab 51. Mr. Duterte was very happy at the birth of the DDS.
Grabe, no?
It's important to note, Your Honors, Mr. Duterte has freely admitted his role in the Davao Death Squad. He
Dahil tsaka inamin talaga yan mga kababayan ni Duterte na may grupo siya. Alam nyo, eto yan ha mga kababayan, kahit pasabihin ng mga DDZ na nagbiro lang si Duterte dun sa House of Representatives o kaya sa Senate mga kababayan, nung sinabi niya na meron siyang grupo, ano po, lalo na doon sa Senate, nung sinabi niya na totoo, yung Davao Death Squad or yung DDS mga kababayan na titinuro ay itong sina Bato de la Rosa, kahit sabihin nung iba na biro lamang yon, tandaan nyo naka-under oath si dating Pangulong Duterte nung sinasabi niya yung mga salitang yon noong mga panahon na yon. Kaya hindi niya pwedeng itanggi sa International Criminal Court, mga kababayan, yung mga nasabi na po niya na yon, ano po, at hindi pwedeng pasinungalingan yan nung abogado niya na si Kaufman. Anyway, tuloy pa natin.
Doesn't deny it. Well, now he does, but
Mm.
he did not before he came here. During an interview with a local news station in 2015, he admitted that he is the devout death squad. If we could play that now, please, James.
Yan.
Ako daw ang death squad.
So how do you react to that?
Tunod. Tunod na.
Diba?
They say I'm the death squad. True. That's true. You know, Your Honors, in some ways, this case is not exactly complicated. That's not the only time Mr. Duterte admitted his role with the death squad. He repeated under oath that he had a death squad at the Blue Ribbon Committee in the Philippine Senate in 2024, about 10 years after the clip we just saw. However, in this exchange, he denied that the death squad included police officers in some type of apparent effort to protect them. This is tab 41.1, if you could bring it up, please. Mr. Duterte, under oath, quote, I can make the confession now if you want. I really took care of it. But please don't involve the police. They're the ones.
Grabe.
I have a death squad, but not the police. These were gangsters. He says it again. In the same hearing, he confirms this admission. Go to the next one, please. Tab 41.1. The senator asks, quote, so what the former president dropped earlier, that they have a death squad, was a bombshell. Whatever name it goes by, whether police or non-police. Because it looks like what we are investigating now is the instrument used for the war on drugs, which led to numerous extrajudicial killings. For
For the record.
End quote. Mr. Duterte's response, quote, you are correct, ma'am. You are absolutely right.
Grabe, no? Tapos alam niyo yung pinakamatindi pa dyan, mga kababayan. Fast forward tayo ng konti dito sa 44. Nung nag-uutos si Duterte, ito may video yan eh. 44:25. Yan, dito. Kasi ako sunod yan. Ayan, yan. Fast forward tayo ng konti dito, mga kababayan.
Different people running to see what has happened because they've heard the shots. Okay, can we play that, please?
Yan.
Sa Makati ganito din.
Katong patay sa Magdaw.
Sabi ni Duterte, mga kababayan, okay, watch carefully. Look at those two walk. Yung naglalakad daw, mga kababayan. That one. Tingnan.
Discard, kasi mabuti sa mo. Morder mo kini klaro. Mulang kanawa na. Kaya, bubada. May pagkita ni Esar Malik.
Ay, grabe, no?
Kawan. Gusto mo nilalahay mo? Kala. Lahat, tulo. Ano ba? Tanong lang sa mga tao.
And you have to wonder,
Di ba, kitang-kita mismo yung pag-uutos niya. Di ba? Gaano katindi yun, mga kababayan? Kitang-kita mismo yung pag-uutos ni Digonggong na itumba yung mga kababayan Pilipino natin. Yung ibang kababayan Pilipino natin. Kitang-kita mismo, mga kababayan, no? Ganon po katindi. Etong si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte nung siya po ang presidente ng Pilipinas, talagang talagang kahit itanggi nila ito, mga kababayan, hindi po may tatanggi ng mga ebidensya. Biruin niyo kung gaano katindi yun, kung gaano po kalupit, mga kababayan, etong mga ginawang ito ni Digonggong, pero si Michael Yang nananatiling ligtas, nakapagtago pa at buhay na buhay mga kababayan, kahit yung kanyang anak na nai-relate sa ipinagbabawal na bato o pagpapagilong ng bilyon-bilyong halaga ng ipinagbabawal na bato. Ano po, kaya nga ako sa totoo lang mga kababayan, itong hearing na ito, itong confirmation of charges na ito ni dating Pangulong Duterte, malaki ang posibilidad mga kababayan na hindi na po makalabas etong si Digong. Malaki ang posibilidad mga kababayan na si Digonggong talaga ay makulong na panghabang buhay dyan sa International Criminal Court. Ano po, kaya kung titingnan nyo mga kababayan, dito pa lang, maliwanag na nabanggit ang pangalan ni Bongo, pangalan ni Bato de la Rosa, at malaki din ang posibilidad mga kababayan, gaya ng sinasabi ko kanina, na ang isa sa posibleng maging dahilan para maabsuelto etong si Digonggong ay walang iba kung hindi aminin ni Bato de la Rosa na siya ang nagplano at siya ang nag-implement. Yun lang mga kababayan. Kaso ang tanong, aaminin ba ni Bato de la Rosa yan kung si Bato de la Rosa nga mga kababayan ay natatakot na mag-surrender? Ano po kung sakaling lumabas na yung kanyang arrest warrant? So kayo, mga kababayan, kung kayo po ang tatanungin, ano po masasabi nyo? Hingil po dyan. Comment below na lamang po kung ano po ang comment at opinion po ninyo. Hingil po sa usapin po na yan mga kababayan.